I start tonight with a London fighter. Now, last May, nearly 20,000 people packed the O2 to see this guy defeat his nemesis, James DeGale. It was a fantastic night. Now, a quick British title defence followed that. And now he's poised for another title fight, and this time there is as much edge, if not a little bit more edge. George Groves, that's who I'm talking about. He's from Hammersmith. He fights Kenny Anderson on March 16th at Wembley. Now, in 2010, they had what can only be described as a savage brawl. It was great fun. George won it in the end, but he was over, and Anderson complained about the stoppage. I thought the stoppage was right, but Anderson complained. It was very lively, to say the least. And, well, finally, a rematch has been arranged. Anderson's delighted with it, and so is George. In fact, I spoke to George earlier, and I started by asking him if perhaps he was as happy with fighting a guy he'd beaten as Anderson was in managing to get back in the ring against the guy he thinks he can beat.
Yeah, definitely, Steve. I think it's a great fight for me to show how much I've improved since the last time I fought Anderson. I think I've made great improvements in my boxing, and I look forward to showing that March 16th.
He's done a good job, Anderson, of keeping the pressure on you, hasn't he, with this fight? I mean, based on the fact that it wasn't, you didn't have a great start. He had a great start. I mean, he's done. I mean, sometimes if you listen to the way it's the way that fight's retold, it's amazing. You left the ring on your own 2 feet.
I think I definitely wasn't my finest hour. I didn't perform as well as I was capable of, and I'm looking forward to showing everyone how I should have done it last time. I think, with regards to Anderson, he has done well. He's had a few wins against much lesser opposition.
Yeah, of course.
And apparently, from what I hear, all he ever gets asked about is the Groves fight. The fight I had with him, and no doubt he's going to want to try and correct that, because his claim to fame doesn't want to be that he put me on my backside and I got up and stopped him 2 rounds later. So obviously he's got a point to prove. I mean,
in many ways, you've had the same thing. Not now, but you had the same thing for a couple of years with everyone asking about the DeGale fight. So you
I sympathise with him. No
Yeah, because that in the end, that was just getting ridiculous. And I used to make a pledge when I had you on the show that I wouldn't mention the DeGale fight, if you remember rightly. Now, what? So then let's look at that fight then, Jules, the Anderson fight. So what did go wrong in early in the fight? Because he had you down and he had you hurt. And you've never shied away from that. So what went wrong? Was it the build up? Was it the day? Was it just the fact he caught you?
It just wasn't. I wasn't. In the zone on the day. I wasn't. My mind wasn't on the task at hand. I think there were many different things that I didn't do that I usually do, and I think when I got in there, looking back on it, it was when I got caught with shots that I necessarily shouldn't have been caught with, and then it was like pride and maybe nervousness as well that made me do things that I shouldn't have been doing, like trying to punch my way out of a bad situation, end up getting caught. Getting rocked, got put down, didn't do the sensible thing, and take a knee for the 8 count and then get up. I jumped straight back up, wanted to carry on fighting. And that's things like pride and ego slip into my boxing, and it's vitally important that you don't let that happen, because at the end of the day, it's the win that matters. The fact that I got through that fight on guts and skill and strength, rather than doing the right things. So this time round, it's about doing the right things, much like what I did in last year. Yeah,
in that DeGale fight, where you used your brain for the whole 36 minutes. I mean, also, he'd started the whole thing. He'd given it quite a build-up, and at the weigh-in, he was particularly feisty. In fact, he was flying all over the place. He stuck as good as stuck the nut on you at the weigh-in, didn't he?
Yeah. It was good for a bit of drama. I think he seems like the sort of fighter who has to hate his opponent to get up for the fight, and if he wants to go about that when he fights me again, that's great. I'm going to use that to his disadvantage if that's the plan he comes with.
Yeah, I mean that would play into a different type of George Groves' hands, wouldn't it? That, to be honest with you, George, that would be a big mistake on this. But listen, I know that I shouldn't do this, and I know you shouldn't. But I've got to look past this. I've got to look at various world champions and fights that are being mentioned out there. A lot of big super middleweight fights being mentioned, lots coming up. Do you feel you need to sort of join that carnival, join that merry-go-round with Stieglitz and Kessler and Butte being mentioned and Froch here and Abraham's here? Do you feel that it's about time you stepped across that line, George? Are you getting closer to getting there?
I'm definitely getting very close, I think, Steve. You know, the important thing for me is to not look past fights. I think, you know, you can't speak for anyone else, but, you know, you'd say that maybe Amir Khan looked past his last opponent and he come up short. And we, you know, I think he'd admit that. And I don't want to make that same mistake. But I know that if I keep making the improvements I'm making, I'll be, you know, on my way to that world elite. Fortunately and unfortunately for me, I think the super middleweight division is stacked with some great talented fighters.
Best weight out there, George. I'm convinced.
It's, you know, there's great fights out there for me, which you want as a boxer, but you know you have to be at your very best, you know, before you're there. And I don't think I'm at my peak yet. I think I've definitely got my best years ahead of me. So it's just about, you know, building and getting better. Once I do make that big jump, you're there, and there's no going back. So I want to be ready.
George Groves there talking to me earlier. Now,